prepared to become the greatest war machine in the universe?
I just want to belong somewhere. So if any aliens are listening, please come and get me. Okay, bye, love you.
In the ever-expanding universe of animation, one original title from Pixar Animation Studios launched into orbit with big ambition, Elio. From its earliest announcement, the film was billed as a fresh, standalone story rather than a sequel or franchise extension, a move that generated both excitement and risk. The story centers on an 11-year-old boy, Elio Solís, who doesn't feel like he fits in on Earth, and when an alien encounter changes his life, he's thrust into the role of Earth's ambassador to a vast intergalactic assembly. The premise alone promised a mix of emotional depth, a boy coping with loss and longing, and broad sci-fi adventure, space travel, aliens, cosmic connection. But as the project moved through production and release, a series of behind-the-scenes changes, release postponements, and box office realities revealed how challenging it is to launch something truly original in today's animation marketplace. The production journey of the film was not without turbulence. Initially slated for release on March 1, 2024, the film's schedule shifted. Influences ranged from industry disruptions, notably the 2023 SAG-AEE-FTR, a strike, to internal changes at Pixar and other strategic calculations. Ultimately, the release date was moved to June 13, 2025, and then further delayed another week to June 20, 2025, in order to avoid competing head-on with major releases. These delays were signs that the studio was rethinking timing, marketing, and possibly audience appetite for a brand new story rather than a familiar franchise. The fact that an original story required this recalibration offers a window into how studios manage risk in the animation space. One of the most notable behind-the-scenes developments involved the creative leadership and representation within the production. The original co-director and writer, Adrian Molina, whose involvement would have marked an important milestone as a Latino and gay creative leading a major animated feature, ended up departing the project. The departure coincided with changes in directorial responsibilities, with filmmakers Domee and Madeline Sharafian stepping in. The change not only signaled a shift in the creative vision, but also sparked discussion about representation, voice, and how studio dynamics can influence which stories ultimately get told and how. The evolution of the project raised questions about what nuances may have been trimmed or altered in pursuit of a broader audience or internal studio comfort. Part of the conversation around the film pertains to how much its narrative tapped into broader themes of belonging, identity, and acceptance. Some critics and audiences noted that while the outward plot is about interstellar adventure, the underlying subtext echoes experiences of immigration, cultural alienation, and the search for home. A boy who doesn't quite feel like he belongs on his home planet, who dreams of being taken somewhere else, becomes a metaphor for those who feel unseen or misplaced. The film makes use of this emotional terrain to give its sci-fi adventure more weight. At the same time, this emotional depth may have made the film less of an instant casual family outing and more of a reflective experience which could influence how different segments of audiences responded. When the film finally hit theaters in June 2025, the initial numbers were sobering. Despite receiving generally favorable reviews, critics noted its charm, emotional core, and inventive world-building. Its opening weekend domestic take was about US $21 million, while internationally it added around US $14 million, making for what is reported to be the weakest global opening in Pixar's history to that point. The performance sparked broader reflection on whether audiences are still gravitating to original stories from even the most acclaimed animation studios, or whether franchise familiarity now dominates. Some of the commentary pointed out that in a landscape where sequels and known brands are safest, an original standalone carries more risk, no matter the pedigree. What may have compounded the box office challenge was competition and audience habit. In its release period, the film faced competition from a live-action remake of a major property and from other big releases, which diluted the attention and available screens. Moreover, some analysts argued that audiences have become conditioned, especially for animated originals, to wait for digital or streaming release, rather than rushing to theaters. The commoditization of streaming and the comfort of watching at home may have shifted the calculus for many families, reducing the urgency to attend in person. For a film that may rely on word-of-mouth momentum and discovery, that shift can blunt its theatrical impact. In parallel, the film also became part of conversations about representation and studio decision-making. Among the revelations was that earlier test screening footage included queer-coded elements for Elio, such as his interest in a boy and other markers of non-straight identity, which were subsequently removed or altered prior to final release. This contributed to the departure of the original director and spurred debate around how much studios are willing to carry forward riskier representation or less safe character arcs in mass-market animation. The removal of these elements was not announced officially in detail by the studio, but investigative stories tracked how creative changes and internal push and pull shaped what audiences ultimately saw. Critically, despite the weak opening, the reviews leaned positive. On review aggregator sites, the film achieved around an 83% approval rating, with audiences responding warmly to its visuals, voice performances, and emotional beats. Many praised the film for its inventive alien designs, its warm heart, and the sense that it was trying something new. However, some critics also pointed out that story-wise the film followed familiar beats and lacked the daring of Pixar's boldest outings. The sense was that it may not break new ground in terms of storytelling risk, but it did deliver a pleasing cinematic experience for many viewers. Following its theatrical run, the film made the transition to home viewing platforms. Digital purchase became available in August 2025, followed by physical releases, 4K UHD Blu-ray, DVD in September. Shortly thereafter, it landed on its streaming home platform in mid-September. Once available for streaming, the film saw a strong uptake. One data point indicated that its 5-day household reach on streaming was over 368% greater than its PVOD debut, showing that while theatrical performance was modest, streaming viewership surged. The shift underscores a potential new arc for how original animated films may find larger audiences in the home environment rather than relying solely on theatrical box office success. Another fascinating element is how the marketing and promotional rollout shaped perception. The film was positioned as a space misadventure with cute alien designs and family-friendly appeal, but promotional materials might not have fully communicated the deeper emotional themes or the distinctiveness of the world, which may have led to a mismatch between audience expectation, light fun, and the actual tone, adventurous with emotional resonance. In addition, the delays and changes may have impacted buzz, and as some analysts noted, marketing for original stories often struggles to generate the same instant recognition as franchise tentpoles. The result, even a beautifully crafted film can face uphill challenges when audience attention is fragmented. In light of the film's performance and production journey, it's worth looking at what it suggests for studios, creators, and audiences. For one, it indicates that original animated features, even from powerhouses, cannot rely purely on brand or legacy. They must find smart ways to signal value, differentiate themselves, and engage a mass audience willing to take a risk on something they haven't seen before. For creatives, it reinforces that studio dynamics shifts in leadership, creative changes, representation decisions matter not just behind the scenes, but in how the final film connects with viewers. And for audiences, it provides a reminder that supporting original storytelling often requires active discovery rather than passive recognition of familiar names. It's also an invitation to reconsider how success is measured. While theatrical box office has long been the gold standard for films, streaming performance and long-tail viewership are becoming increasingly important, especially for films whose initial footprint is modest. The film's strong streaming numbers suggest that original films may carve out new life cycles beyond the cinema, which in turn could affect how studios greenlight future projects, market them, and decide their distribution strategies. The gap between cinema underperformance and later streaming uptake illustrates this evolving dynamic. From a cultural perspective, the film also raises questions about what it means to belong, to be different, and to find one's place. The narrative of a young boy who feels alien on his own planet, who dreams of being taken away by aliens, and who, in the end, becomes an ambassador for his homeworld, resonates on literal and metaphorical levels. It invites reflection on outsider status, identity, the longing for connection, and the idea that home may not simply be a place, it might be who you are. Whether viewers pick up on all these layers or simply enjoy the spectacle, the ambition of the film is clear: to entertain and to emotionally engage. Looking ahead, implications for the studio are multifold. The performance of this film will likely factor into how many original stories are greenlit, how budgets are managed, how marketing is executed, and how release windows are determined, especially the balance between theatrical and home platforms. For audiences, it means that some of the most daring animation may increasingly arrive via streaming, at least initially, and that the cinematic experience for smaller or original titles may continue to evolve. The film thus stands as a case study in how to launch original intellectual property in an era dominated by sequels and brands. Ultimately, the journey of Elio is a story of ambition, change, risk, and adaptation. The film dared to ask its viewers, what if someone who feels utterly out of place becomes the hero of the universe? What if recognizing our difference is the key to making a difference? It may not have soared in the box office skies, but it found new lift in streaming wings and sparked conversations about representation, industry practices, and audience habits. For anyone interested in animation, storytelling, or the future of original cinematic adventures, it offers a lot to unpack and a reminder that sometimes the most interesting journeys are the ones that don't quite go according to plan.